So, and as we heard how Berlin Partner can help you with the first steps into the Chinese market, Daniel now will tell us about basics and particularities of being successful in the Chinese market. You already got to know Daniel. He is a senior project manager at TechCode, and he has studied several years and worked in China. And he has founded a Chinese mobile ride-sharing platform. But now he's here at TechCode, and the stage is yours.
Yeah. Thank you once more to Christian about your short overview about the projects you've got going on and about also the cooperation with we running together, right? And seems like your guys will be pretty busy this year, right? Let's be together busy. So yeah, it's gonna be a great one. She already told you that I have been in China. The first time I went to China was in 2009 when I was doing an internship for a Chinese IT company. And I also was on a project for the Chinese Electronic Chamber of Commerce. So this is the first point in my life where I already made contact with a Chinese company working together in China. I got back then to Berlin, graduated in economics in Berlin, worked as a freelance consultant for a couple of months and almost 1 year actually. And then I applied for a scholarship program from the German Academic Exchange Service and moved back to Beijing and studied Chinese as a foreign language from 2011 to 2013. While still being on a campus, I founded my first Chinese startup, which was, as she introduced it properly, a Chinese mobile ride-sharing service. So we had to shut it down in 2013 for a couple of reasons. Maybe we will have some time to talk about those reasons, because these kind of questions are, of course, those questions which matter. I would like to go through some specific, really practical points today, right? I could tell you more about TechCode. I could tell you more about how we're connected in China, that we have great partners like Sequoia Capital or the Bank of China or other cooperative partners, which would be worth to mention them. But I mean, why are you here, right? I suppose you're here because you want to learn, man, maybe I have a business going on, right? And I want to take a deeper look inside whether my business model or my company would be a proper approach or would be a proper company which also could be considered to be successful in the Chinese market, right? So I want to go through some points and some examples of Western companies who already started their business in China, and a couple of them weren't successful. So don't take this the wrong way, but especially in those cases where everything didn't go so well, those cases are the most interesting cases where we can really take something out of, right? Where we can learn what specifically went wrong and how we can do better next time. One of those companies is actually, I suppose all of you know it, or know them, is Groupon. Do you have still the pointer, or? Okay, thank you so much. Is Groupon. And the first topic I want to talk about, adapting to the local requirements. Of course, we all know that even if you move from Brandenburg to Bavaria, right, you have to adapt to the local requirements. Right? This is not a specific Chinese issue. It is everywhere you go, you have to adapt within your vicinity. Why is Groupon so interesting? Because, as all of you know, Groupon has its specific business model, which they wanted to expand in other markets. And in 2011, I suppose, was it, when they entered into the Chinese market. And was quite interesting because, as you know, Groupon has this deal where they stick to the profit splits 50-50, right? They are offering other vendors and suppliers a deal where they're going to take the products which are offered from the supply and put them on the website. And 50% of what's sold goes right into the pocket of Groupon. what is interesting about this is, at this point of time, and you really can't believe this, there were already 4,000 competitors, 4,000 group buying websites in the Chinese market. And when Groupon called these suppliers, they were like crazy. No, you must be joking, right? 50%, just give me a call again when you're serious, man. Don't tell me jokes. So they hang up. And Groupon didn't call again because they stick to this to the strategy of having this 50-50 deal. So despite the circumstance that they know that there was a huge scenery of competitors, they stick to the concept. The question is why? Yeah, actually I don't know why. I can't tell you. The next thing was the mass email thing, right? To focus on mass email in China is from a different point, from different points. It's not the best idea. One point is that you have to make sure already in the subject line that your email is an advertisement. So the probability of having customers open up this mail because due to the circumstance they already know this is an advertisement is pretty low, right? Never though, I mean, no, I don't tell the story because it's too it's too sensitive. But I can really tell you that Groupon's China strategy really focused on a big scale on these mass email marketing methods. At least multitude of different marketing strategies we're focusing on the mass email marketing thing. And another one, of course, is if you're going to China, you have to listen to your local labor, right? You have to really listen to the workforce because they know how to deal with the markets themselves. Groupon didn't do it. They just had Western managers transferred to China, put them in a different branches in a different location, and were trying to run the business like they were doing it in the Western countries. So they didn't empower their local workforce. And this is like having a cappy like this, having sunglasses like this, and being blended by the sun. All you need is just to put your sunglasses on and take the cap right away. You have everything you got, right? Why don't use it? Why don't use it? You have the local workforce, right, you can use. Another thing is, of course, picking the right partner. I mean, if you're going to China, there's no way you can succeed without having the right partner. I don't know any case, actually, where a Western company entered the Chinese market within the last 15 years were pretty much successful. I mean, yeah, no, I don't know any company, actually. No, really. And Groupon choose a very interesting partner, actually. It's Tencent, right? Many of you maybe know Tencent already, right? They are running apps like WeChat. Maybe you already heard about WeChat. It's quite familiar or quite the same like WhatsApp. The only difference is that WhatsApp, don't quote me on this, but I guess it's too late because we have everything on video. WhatsApp, for instance, had I don't want to say copy, okay? I just want to say WhatsApp had the walkie-talkie function much later than WeChat. WeChat had it before. So Tencent is one of the biggest actors within the Chinese market. So you would say like, man, this is great. They have one of the most powerful partners you can ever imagine, right, in the Chinese market. They know how to deal with it, right? Isn't that great? Yeah, it would be great if Tencent wouldn't have had already 2 ongoing group buying websites running in China they invested in at that time. So you can imagine the priority of helping Groupon scaling their China business was not quite that on a high priority list, right? So they were much occupied with other different things they wanted to run in frame of their own business. But even though Groupon didn't try to take advantage, so Tencent was offering everything. We would like be consulting you guys, no problem. You have problems with your local requirement or to fit the local requirement. Let's talk about, right? Groupon just didn't listen. They just didn't want to listen. I mean, I have my own theory why, and it would have been something to do with the IPO, which was to be planned at this time in 2011, I guess it was, and well, we can talk about later when the camera is off. Anyway, they didn't take really advantage of the whole resources which were offered to them. And this is interesting. This is really interesting, and I will get back to this point later and tell you why this is interesting. Third one, engaging with a Chinese social media platform. That is an interesting thing. Did you know that more than 61% of every Chinese netizen is making purchasing decisions based on social media interactions? I don't know whether we could even get numbers about this topic in Germany or Europe, but man, this is huge. 61% are making purchasing decisions based on social media criteria. So, of course, everywhere you go in the world, social media is important. You cannot avoid it. But in this case, you really should consider yourself as a person who should pay special attention to this topic. What kind of social media platforms do we have? I already mentioned WeChat. Another one, the first one, is the microblogging website Weibo. It's comparable to Twitter. So at Weibo, you find those little QR codes, right? Sometimes you also find it on stones, but usually you find it on screens. And these QR codes, of course, lead you to companies, to company websites, and also to company WeChat websites, because most of the companies are represented on WeChat websites, right? We use WeChat actually all the time, every day. We organizing our whole communication through WeChat, and every big corporation in China is doing it the same, in the same way. They use WeChat for everything, really everything. Another one is Baidu Tieba. Baidu Tieba is it's a community project more, right? Because if you compare the typical search engine from Baidu to Google, you will find out that there are no ads, right? But this is actually not true. The only thing is that these ads are not labeled, because everything you find on Baidu is actually advertised, right? So you get no objective results. So this is why, of course, many customers were like, no, if I want to go to Baidu and I really want to have objective results, so where should I go? This is why they put up the community, Baidu Tieba. And how does it work? It works like this. You put in a research phrase or a word which you're going to look up. And if there wasn't any person before you who already searched, Baidu Tieba is creating an automatic bar, like a certain kind of frame or a certain kind of virtual place where everything is saved and stored regarding those words. So everyone who's coming after you and searching for the same word, his research requirement is saved to the same place. So, and afterwards you can really look up. So it's more personal, like it's not a machine who's deciding or to vote in favor of which kind of results are showed and which are not. So, and then of course you get another pretty amazing social media websites like Maypai, right? Maypai. Yeah, sometimes I forget the pronunciation. I mean, I don't know what about Renren and Kaixin. They are still existing, right? But yeah, because WeChat took over. You can really think of one thing: BAT, Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent, they are taking everything over because they're in the whole supply chain. I mean, let's talk about Tencent for another minute. Tencent, I don't know how much startups they really have. What I know is that they have at least between 1,500 and 2,000 different teams working on at least 1 or 2 products. So these guys are crazy. They they're pretty much trying to take over the industry, right? But we won't make it easy for them. At least that is what I'm telling myself every night before I go to sleep. Of course, it's a little bit dreamy. The rapid metamorphosis of emerging markets. This is actually something which has nothing to do with the Chinese market itself. I just want to use this example to make something clear, that in most of the cases, it's not only about talking about an emerging market which you want to conquer. It's about a society which is changing. And in terms of the Chinese market, it's so rapidly changing that even the Chinese have their difficulties to really focus on what is changing because they don't know themselves. Right? I'll give you a quick example. It's an old one, but it's a really interesting one. The average age of women to be married in 2005 were like 23 years old. For men, 25. Let's take a look at 2008. For women, 30. For men, 32. Within just 3 years, the average age of women and men to get married rose by 7 years. 7 years within 3 years. That's amazing. And this is something which you really have in mind. I mean, this is not a current example, of course, but there is a multitude of different examples. We could take a closer look and we would discover like circumstances which would blow your mind, like of course, if you're a marketer, right? So especially for people focusing on marketing, this is a topic which is very, very interesting because if your customer group is changing or their focus and their requirements are changing within a certain spread of like 2 years or 3 years, this is changing everything. In some cases, maybe the whole strategy of a big corporate has to be adjusted just because they decide, no, I want to get married, no, I don't want to get married, right? This is a crucial thing. 7 years, it's amazing. Communicating with your customers. Yeah, of course, everywhere in the world you have to communicate with your customers, right? So it's an important thing. I don't know whether you guys in the last row can see this picture very clearly, so I'm going to describe it a little bit for you. What you see here is a Lamborghini Gallardo from 2011. And you're seeing a bunch of people standing around, right, and destroying the vehicle. So what happens? It's an interesting story, actually. There was this Chinese customer, and he bought a Lamborghini Gallardo, right? And then he got some difficulties with the car, so he went back to the car service station, and they repaired the Lamborghini. Well, at least this is what he thought they would do. And he went back home, and he discovered, oh, not only do I have still the same problems with my Lamborghini, no, I have even more problems than before. So he went back, and they were like, no, man, you were already here. We fixed it. Go home. So what he did, he was pissed off. He was very annoyed. He was angry. He took the Lamborghini, hired a bunch of people, put the Lamborghini on a public place, and put it on social media. So he recorded everything. This was a huge mess for Lamborghini. I don't know whether they recovered or within a certain spread of time or when they did recover, but this was a serious problem. And Siemens, by the way, had a another issue which is also related to this topic, right? Because they had problems with, I guess it was a refrigerator program which the Siemens introduced in China, and they had great problems, huge problems with the refrigerator, and they weren't replying on a social media platform properly. How should they? They don't even know it from the German side, at least at this time. Right? So they had no experience about how to communicate with my customers. Because, of course, today everyone is like using social media to give your requirements a voice or somewhat. But in this time in Germany or in Western European countries, this was not so serious. Now it is. But at this point of time in China, it was already very, very serious. So they didn't pay attention at all to this issue. Why I'm telling you this, right? This is an interesting question. I mean, I gave you some examples of Western companies who were doing pretty bad, right, in the Chinese market. So what I want you to understand is if you're thinking about going to the Chinese market, why not? Why not? These examples I just gave you do have nothing to do with China. These examples do have something to do with doing your homework. Do you really think with this kind of attitude, these big corporates were able to conquer their home country markets in the US, in Europe? I don't think so. I think that there even would be a Groupon to talk about if they would have used the same attitude. Not listen to your customers, not listen to your partners, not listen to your sellers. Just, I don't want to call them arrogant, but maybe a little bit, what did we just say, overconfident, right? So if you're doing what you're doing and you're successful, don't stop, just don't stop doing it, right? So if you're going to China, just keep what you're doing. Listen to your customers, prepare for the local requirements, and then let's see what kind of China-specific related topics pop up. These are the topics we can then trying to challenge, trying to take a closer look in. And that's what we're here for, right? TechCode is offering a space where other entrepreneurs, either they have already existing China business or they think about going to China, right? And I want to introduce you to some of them. One is Germanto, right? Maybe you never heard of them, but they're doing pretty good. They are specialized in selling lifestyle and food products from Germany to China. And they, of course, have a special ability because they have China business and they are successful. I mean, one number I can say, at least this is what I was told, they are making already 600,000 euros revenue a month from our office right there. Usually it was planned that they would also participate in the panel discussion, but of course they are busy, right? So what is special about Gemanto, of course, is they have a unique, there's something special which they take into this game, right? They're not going to China and try to scale a business which they already run at home. No, they're taking someone which is not easily to be copied in China, right? No one in China can have these contracts these guys are having, right? They have licenses with special German operating companies, and they are able to provide those kind of special prices also within China. So this is what they make very, very special. Another one, and here I have to say, I'm not connected in any way to FanMites. I just read about these guys, and I think they are very interesting because I was thinking, man, FanMites, that's an interesting concept, right? People get rewarded by FanMites when they follow their celebrity or most favorite football stars, for instance, on Facebook, Snapchat, and other social media platforms, right? And they get rewarded for following them by getting, for instance, a T-shirt signed by your favorite football star, right? Why do I mention them for China? Because China is crazy about football, right? They are crazy about German football. They know sometimes I just ran into a Chinese guy and he was like, yeah, Schweinsteiger, da, 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 da. I don't even know the names he knows, right? They are crazy about. So why FanMiles? Of course, FanMiles is providing the network they already got to football clubs in Germany, right? So they already have the connection to the German side, to the German companies they already have a cooperation with, right? So this is also something which cannot easily be copied by Chinese companies. They cannot copy. They can copy a lot, yeah. But there are some things they cannot copy, and this is the network and the corporations you are providing within your home country, right? This is why I would like to talk to these guys, right? It's an interesting thing. Carosso, another startup which joined us 2 weeks ago. Yeah, about 2 weeks ago. They have a nice concept. They are selling cars online by providing kind of certification system, right? They have neutral inspectors verifying the quality and integrity of German cars. So how does it work? I go just online, take the car or select the car I wanted to buy, and I can be sure that this car is meeting these requirements I really want to have. You would not even be able to have fulfilled these requirements if you're taking, if I would buy a car, I usually would take my best friend because he's a mechanic and he knows everything about cars. But I'm pretty sure he wouldn't be able to meet these requirements. These guys are doing it. These guys are doing it, and they're doing it online, right? So why China? Of course, because Chinese customers are crazy about German standards, right? Every single topic which is safety related, which is related to a specific certification in terms of ensuring safety, yeah, they are crazy about. Of course, Carosso wouldn't start to sell German used cars to the Chinese market, but we could talk about implementing the system run by a German company, run by a German certification-related company who provides neutral inspectors ensuring the quality of those cars. Interesting thing, right? Isn't it? Of course, then we have Tracer. I just went to China with Tracer 1 month ago, and they were pitching to some investors because, of course, if you're interested in the Chinese market and there's an opportunity, we can put up a delegation program, right? So we just go over. I mean, we have so many locations. We're in Beijing, in Shanghai, in Xianghe, in Guan. I forget Shenzhen. I forget the hub anyway. Outside from China, we're in Seoul, Tel Aviv, Silicon Valley, Berlin. As Jasmine already mentioned, we will have another location in Helsinki pretty soon. Next year, there will be at least 10 locations, right? So we are connected globally. And of course, if you want to go to China, we can go together. We can pitch to Chinese investors, which are part of our network, right? Why Tracer? Tracer is a supply of business intelligence software, right? I would, especially for apps, I would say that Tracer isn't doing anything which a Chinese person has never thought of. I wouldn't say this and go so far, but what Tracer have, they have German customers like Deutsche Bank, DHL. And what is special about these customers? You know it? They are in China, right? So they are in China. If you have a customer base within Germany, which has already existing business in China, it's an interesting story for you. Because usually those Western companies go to Chinese service provider right? Because no one is there, which they could know from their home country, or at least not as much as they would like to have there, right? So Tracer would be a suitable case, finding a right local partner, cooperating with this partner, going to China, and try to make some serious business, right, with the customers they already have in their home countries. I have 10 seconds left, and that leaves me to the end. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. If you have any questions, just talk to us. Yeah, we are delighted and happy to answer all of your questions. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Daniel will be part of our panel later on, so I think if you have any questions, please keep them in mind. You will have the chance to ask them later, and I'm quite sure that Daniel will be here all night to answer all your questions.